Well, quarterly index rebalancing happening today. We've had two being removed from the top 40, that being Liberty and PPC, and being replaced with Truworths and Massmart. Let's take a look at how you expect that to affect volumes today.
Yes, we do expect quite a spike in volumes today, especially because a lot of players in the market will be in to rebalance their portfolios, to sell some positions and buy other positions, and to just get back into have a more reflective top 40 of the current market conditions. But yes, so 5 o'clock is going to be very busy for a lot of traders, and volumes are going to be affected quite a bit. So expect quite a large spike there.
Is there any indication as yet of the net effect this is expected to have on the markets?
Not yet, Alishia. As I said earlier, we're going to have a lot of players in the market, so we're not quite sure who's going to be selling what and buying what, just so that they rebalance their portfolios to reflect the new top 40. But yes, we are expecting quite a big jump in the top 40 later on today, but it will be mainly be based on volume rather than on net positioning.
Let's take a look at this, because we're looking at two retailers here, Truworths and Massmart, coming to the fore, entering that top 40 arena. I mean, it's quite interesting that they're both players from the retail space. We of course saw retail sales numbers out in South Africa yesterday coming in largely positive. I mean, what's your view of that sector right now?
I think the sector has got a lot of great prospects coming up. I think, because it is so consumer sensitive and interest rate sensitive and all of those other things that, as the South African Reserve Bank, for instance, has been trying to improve through rates and trying to grow that sector. However, I must say that I don't believe it's really a sector-specific thing, but maybe something more particularly to the individual companies such as Truworths and Massmart. Their valuations have gone up quite steadily, and they have performed quite well, and they have grown in size. And so, therefore, this rebalancing reflects just those two particular companies and what they have done versus the sector in particular. However, having said that, those retail sales numbers that did come out yesterday were off a low base. So, so it's still a little bit too early to say whether the consumer is really spending, and this just is another thing that bodes well for the retail sector. However, the top 40 is where the foreigners play, so it will be actually a new eye and a more positive eye, perhaps, on the South African retail sector.
In the meantime, we've had South Africa's biggest media company, Naspers, coming out with a trading update saying that it's expecting core headline earnings per share to be between 15 and 25% higher moving forward. What's the market reaction been to that set of numbers released?
Yeah, I think the market has welcomed those numbers. Naspers is one of the better received or better perceived media counters on the JSE. They are more well diversified than the rest, being having a strong presence in the BRIC countries. However, last week I think Naspers was under a lot of pressure based on a broker update that said 10 cents growth may not be as robust as previously thought. So they did have quite a pullback last week, but we see a nice recovery based on what they're saying, core headline earnings to be up 15 and 25%. So yes, definitely well received today.
Well, certainly it is going to be a very interesting playing field moving forward, where Avusa also announced earlier this week that it will acquire units of privately held UAC Communications in a bid to actually gain ground in retail advertising. So we'll be watching developments within that space. In the meantime, just going global now, in Ntombenhle, we saw the Dow and the S&P close slightly higher yesterday, despite the disappointing economic data that was revealed over in the US. Let's take a look at the kind of picture that's evolving, because for now it seems that the market is looking for any good news that's out there before it takes direction.
Yes, absolutely. I think what we saw yesterday was really a reaction to the Spanish debt issue or bond issue that was done yesterday. So the market really kind of not necessarily ignoring what happened in the United States, but reacting more at what happened in the Eurozone. And that data, the disappointing data of the initial jobless claims, and as well as the Philadelphia manufacturing data, really served more to cap the gains that the United States could have had yesterday. But yes, the focus now back on Europe and looking for any kind of good news that comes out of either Asia, America, or Europe. But we did see that translated a little bit into the gold price, which we would have expected to come back based on the exuberance that's currently in the market. However, However, that really hasn't really translated. We've seen it gone up to record levels actually, and therefore just showing that there is still some risk aversion in the market. Maybe players not necessarily buying the entire story of Europe yet, of the recovery happening there, and also maybe just starting to see that the US growth story is not necessarily as robust or as progressive as they initially thought.
Well, certainly it's that gold and platinum price, the metal prices that are keeping the resources 20 segment or giving a little bit of support today despite the stronger rand that's come to the fore. So let's take a look at implications for the local unit in this global context, Ntombenhle.
Yeah, I think the rand has been very robust, but you must remember that I think when it went up to 770 or 780, previously it was just based on foreigners maybe moving out of a market. It was just showing the fear factor that was the order of the weeks, the previous weeks. So we've seen a pullback, in the rand, and it has improved significantly since the last time. However, there's still some fear in there, and I suppose the stronger rand will make our gold counters less competitive. However, I think it's just more players coming into the market, having better faith perhaps in the emerging market currencies.
Let's take a look then in terms of what we're looking forward to today out of the US, in particular existing home sales data. I mean, are those expectations a little bit more muted and tempered given the fact that we saw those disappointing numbers yesterday?
I think we must also remember that there's quadruple witching happening today, which is 4 different types of quarterly June options and futures expiring happening. So so perhaps the focus won't necessarily be so much on existing home sales that's coming out today, but it is important because it's just the home sector, the home sales sector, as well as the consumer sector, is what we're looking for in the United States, is where the improvement we're expecting to come out of the United States. So I think there will be some attention today, but there's a lot more going on in the market, in the United States markets today.
Let's take a look then in terms of expectations for the trend that's set to kick in for the JSE. Is it possible to target any level on the local market right now?
Geez, I think for the technical analysts, it may become a little bit difficult at the moment. I think, we've had quite a rally over the past few days, just a little bit over a week that we've had very strong gains in the JSE. But I think, the market was oversold at certain levels, and now perhaps, it's just a re-look at the situation and maybe going back to levels where are a little bit more fair, more reflective of fair market conditions. But I think perhaps maybe the 26,000 level is where we can actually start getting excited about the top 40 and started getting excited about perhaps new technicals being breached and maybe return to previous crash levels. So but at the moment, technicals change almost every hour nowadays because of what's happening in the market.
Well, certainly a very difficult time to be predicting anything. Let's leave it there. Ntombenhle, thanks so much for your time this afternoon.